me today for an intuitive check-in. I'm Janet Raftis. I am an energy healer and psychic medium. I also teach intuitive development. And every Friday at 5:15-ish, I share an intuitive development tip. So today we are going to, hey Melissa, we're going to talk about intuition and projection. And last week we talked about intuition. Is it intuition or trigger? And they're actually very similar. And so I thought it would be great to go into this because it can be also hard to know, is this something that's coming in for me? Is it really an intuitive hit? Is it a message from spirit or my higher self? Or is this something that I'm taking from my own experience and trying to hold on to? And there's a tendency for us to project with ourselves and also with other people. And so as I've talked about before, and I'll review it because it's so important, something intuitive, an intuitive hit, is always very energetically clean. That's why we get a lot of intuitive hits when we're doing things that are sort of like manually operated, things that we do on kind of like autopilot, meditative things like washing the dishes or taking a shower or even driving. Sometimes you get into kind of like this zone where you're in the midst of doing something and then something just drops in, right? We get some sort of flash of insight or a knowingness or a way to move forward. And this can be something, because what happens is when we're in this motion, and it can happen too when we take time and meditate or whatnot, but I like to use this example because when we're in this sort of repetitive motion, we are, we're not forcing anything. It's just, we're kind of like open in those moments. And a lot of people I know love to communicate with their spirits and guides when they are in the shower for this very reason. Also water tends to help and support intuitive insight. So, but when you're doing it, you'll have something drop in. It will feel very clean. It will feel very pure. And it will oftentimes not be at all related to anything that's going on with you, right? So you're doing the dishes and you're compiling your grocery list in your head, and then all of a sudden you get a vision of Hawaii, and you just had somebody the day before tell you, oh my God, I think you need to get away, you should go to the beach, right? That would be able to be connected to an intuitive hit. Whereas a projection might be something like you are ruminating about something, you're going over something in your head, you're thinking about it, you might even be sort of forcing it, and what will happen is your head will start to go into scenarios, right? And so we can use the same example. Let's say that you, instead of like you're being open-ended, like, oh, it was suggested I take a beach vacation, maybe you're feeling really distraught, maybe you're really feeling overworked, and maybe you really want to go on vacation, but you also have, only $100 in your bank account, and you're sitting there and you're worried and you're thinking about it and you're like, I really need to get away, and you're ruminating and you're going over and over, and then you're thinking about something completely, you're completely wrapped up in this attachment to it, and you start to convince yourself, right, that it would be a really good idea for you to go on this trip because you did this before, or because so-and-so had the experience of going to Hawaii and their whole life changed afterwards. And so you start projecting outcomes that you want, that you're attached to, into the situation. And so that's an indication of projection, right? You're caught up in it and you're hoping for a particular outcome. Now, there can be projections as well when you're working with other people, and this is something I have had a lot of people come to me and tell me that they were working either with a healer or with an intuitive, and there was something that didn't feel good about some of the information that they came through. Like maybe the healer, this is a really common one. They'll come to me and they'll say, oh my God, do I have attachments on me? And there won't be any attachments on the person. And what happens is the person maybe is going through something that's really difficult. Maybe they're struggling. Maybe they're even a little bit depressed. Situations where maybe even potentially they could have some sort of energetic attachment with them. But what will happen is the healer or the intuitive or the friend, somebody who means well, might be seeing, have a perception of this experience through their own fears, right? So if they have fears of attachments, if they have fears of dark energies, if they're afraid that there's a dark energy in their house or they've dealt with this before, then they'll project that onto the person that they're working with. Well, oh, you have this attachment on you. That's just one example that I see a lot. It's kind of an extreme example, but it could also happen, for instance, with, it could happen if somebody has an illness, right? And somebody might process, think they're intuitively processing the information about the illness for the person, but really it's not intuition. It's their projection, their subconscious fear of what's going on. So it's really important when you're working with intuition, or when you're working with, anytime you're working with intuition, that you take a step back. Am I processing this through my experience, or is this something that's coming in cleanly? Now, I will say that there are times that a person I'll be working with someone and I might get an intuitive hit that is like my guides or their guides might show me an experience that I've had, so that I can get the information that's relevant to what's going on. When this happens, sometimes I get an immediate knowingness of like, this is not about me, it's a clean hit, this is about the person. But sometimes I might stop for a moment and step back and ask, like, is this for the person? Is this really information that person needs to know? And if it is, can you show me in a different way? Can you give me more insight? Can you share something different with me, so that I get validation for that before I move into what could be a projection, if that makes sense. So it's important to, as you're working with your intuition, always to tune into the energetics of what's going on. How does this feel to me? And then again, does it feel clean? Does it feel like it just dropped in, like it was given to me? Or does it feel like something that I'm processing through my subconscious? Is it something that I am bringing forth due to an experience that I have had, due to a fear I've had, or an anxiety that I've had? And that's one thing, is that projections often work with fear and anxiety. So it can be really important to tune into that. And really, and if you're not sure, even, especially when you're working with yourself or with anyone else, if you're not sure and it's something that is coming up for you, take your time with it, write it down, journal about it, meditate with it, bring it into your body and do the body check that I've talked about before, where you tune in. Is this right? Does this feel right to me? How does it feel to me? And then being aware of, does it feel clean, or does it feel like I'm attaching to this? Does anybody have any questions about anything? I'll wrap up in just a minute, but I want to make sure that I give time for questions. And to see also if anybody has any experience that they want to share, feel free to share that in the comments. I'm happy to answer it or share as well. And yeah, I really appreciate y'all being here with me. Thank you so much. And if you are not watching this live, but you tune in later, feel free to put a question in the comments. I always come back and check the thread to make sure that I have hopefully caught everything. And feel free to message me as well, because sometimes something like this can be personal. But if you have a question or you've had an experience that you would like to share, I would love to hear about it. Thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Take care. Bye.